Hello, and welcome back to Your Takes Are Excrement, or as we're calling it around here, Excrement lately, which we think is spicy and fun because you know what, we like to abbreviate things. We think that long titles are kind of silly, which is why having a long titled podcast is just real hard for us. Anyway, Your Take is Excrement is the podcast that you are now listening to. And isn't that great for you? I am May, as always, and I'm joined by...
Neo, or Angstrom. And I will have... or you can find me on Twitter.
You can?
You can.
Oh.
You can find the Catboy on Twitter.
Yeah, you can also find me on Twitter. I have a feeling you found this podcast from me from Twitter. So if that is the situation, then I apologize for marketing to the people who are already marketed to. But if you don't know who I am, I'm Nick Spheres Online, and I do a lot of horror-related media stuff. And about, I don't know, let's call it like 4 or 5 years ago now, I had a viral video. Did you know this? It was about, drum roll, Phantom of the Paradise, which is the topic of today's podcast. Isn't that really fascinating?
Yes. So actually, after we watched this movie, I was looking for stuff about it, and I saw your video on YouTube, and I chose not to watch it.
A wise choice
Yes.
was made. Yeah, I do probably have the most popular takes on the movie.
You do.
Which is weird to have. But alas, here we are, many years later, revisiting it in the public eye. And I am doing it with my friend Neo here. Now, if you don't know anything about our podcast, if you're just tuning in for the first time, and you missed last episode on Cannibal Holocaust, which was both sexy and delicious and fun, you got to check it out, dude. You got to check it out. It's the fucking bee's knees. But anyway, this one, we're showing our friend Neo here cinema. That's right, cinema for the first time, for real. See, Neo has lived in Africa the majority of his life. Therefore, his movie options were limited to like whatever bullshit he could get on a hard drive. You know,
or whatever bullshit we bought in the States, took it out of the DVD case because they were too big, put them in paper sleeves, and hauled them over to Africa.
Right. So y'all didn't see a lot of fucking movies.
No.
However,
We mostly watched Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, the Wardrobe, kind of like every day for a while.
Yeah, of course, as you do. But I, on the other hand, disassociated with movies during the tumultuous early years of my life, so I've seen fucking everything. So we thought, we looked at each other and we were like, podcast? Think about it. It's an idea. And so this podcast could alternatively be titled May Force Feeds Neo Classic Cinema. But, and by classic cinema, I mean like exploitation trash.
Yes.
Is kind of the bit. We're going to be watching like classic horror, but also like exploitation trash.
Also, at some point, Jodorowsky, which I'm excited for.
Right, which, you know, and a lot of these things are going to border on art film or exploitation or trash or porn. And it's hard to tell sometimes, and that's just sort of the way that things are.
Listen, all cinema is porn.
For someone.
Yeah, exactly.
So
all cinema is someone's secret desire.
In someone's deep, dark little dungeon. Water is delicious, and it is the sponsor for today's video. H2O, go on out there and get some.
But not Nestle water, unless they pay me.
So, today we are going to be talking about Phantom of the Paradise, which is a very unpopular film turned kind of cult classic recently, fairly recent cult classic. Although it has been a long cult classic in the city of Winnipeg. Shout out to Winnipeg, which I guarantee you, Neo, right now there is somebody listening from Winnipeg. Like, they love this movie. They seek out the stuff where people talk about it, and they're like, hey, we're in Winnipeg, and we
Well,
love this movie.
Listen, Phantom Con, or whatever they call the
yeah,
the
hit us
convention.
up. We'll come to
Hit
your
us
fucking...
up. Winnipeg's in Canada?
yeah.
Yeah, we'll come to Canada.
I'll come to Canada.
I like Canada.
I like Canada.
I lived in Canada for a year.
That's fucking crazy, man.
It kind of sucked, but...
Did they like Phantom of the Paradise there?
Oh, I lived in Quebec, so they're...
It's a very different vibe.
Yeah.
I see. Well, so Phantom of the Paradise has like the weirdest legacy ever in that it's kind of influential, but for really dumb and weird reasons. And also the way that it ended up even happening is also a bunch of dominoes falling.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a rabbit hole. So
Well, before we really dive into the movie,
yes,
like watching the movie, I could notice like a lot of things that I've already seen that were really directly inspired by it.
yeah, iconography.
Like most distinctively Berserk, and then that's like that inspires everything else.
Well, right, yeah. So, well, and that's like the big hook, I guess, is the thing. But I guess we're gonna get to that. Let's start from the beginning, because last time I think we talked for like 15 minutes about all kinds of pseudo political shit for the first like 15 minutes of the podcast, and everyone commented, and they were like, May, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you need to get your shit straight. We only have an hour with you, and we need to make it count. So we're going to make it count. We're going to start with the plot early on this time. So what is the plot of the film Phantom of the Paradise?
The plot is, and someday I'm going to either remember characters' names, or I'm just going to come in with a sheet.
Okay.
William, is that
William Finley is the actor.
Oh.
He is. Are you
It's the
referring
character's
to?
name.
Winslow Leach.
Winslow
Yes.
and William are basically the same name.
Right.
So Winslow performs a whole concerta, or part of a concerta he's written.
Yes.
To
Conchata. Yes.
Conchata, I'm sorry. To Swan, who is a criminal music producer.
He's an evil backhanded
Evil bastard.
evil bastard. Yes.
So this evil bastard decides that he wants Winslow's music, steals it from him, and then casts him aside.
Imprisons him.
I was gonna cover a bit what happened in the weird
Middling.
in the weird Playboy
Intro.
Weinstein mansion.
Oh yeah, of course.
But anyway, so we get skipping that. Swan gets black cops to sprinkle crack on the white man, which I thought was a very interesting detail. Then he goes to jail, gets his teeth ripped out, has like a nerd rage moment, breaks out of jail, and through a series of comical events gets his face burned in a vinyl press. He then goes full on Phantom of the Opera and haunts Swan's music hall until Swan approaches him with the deal. And the deal is he makes music, specifically his concerta, for Swan, and Swan will play it for him. They then sign this deal in blood. I should backtrack. The concerta is about Faustian bargains and Faust. So the man who's writing music about Faust signs a deal with somebody in exchange for fame and popularity in blood.
He does do that, doesn't he?
Yes.
Anyway, it's fine.
So he then the devil, or Swan, because then proceeds to dick over Winslow. Yes. Winslow.
Correct.
Just about every opportunity. And the rest of the movie is really just every character in the movie dicking each other over. Because
getting involved in some obscure Faustian bargain.
Yes. Even the protagonist is kind of a massive piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole so from like halfway through the movie onward is just everybody being the biggest piece of shit to each other the entire film, and it ends with them all killing each other.
Neo thought that this movie was unkind.
I like this movie, but they're all like, there's no hero. Like Winslow's a bastard. There's this other part of it where there's this girl that he really wants to sing it, and Swan doesn't want her to sing it for the sole reason Swan doesn't want this girl, what's her name again? Phoenix to sing it is because Swan's a massive dick.
He just hates her.
He just hates women,
He
but
just hates
specifically
women.
her. So,
Yes.
but she really wants to move up in the world, so she's siding with Swan against Winslow so that she can get something, while Winslow is trying to dick over Swan because he wants Phoenix to play it. So they're all like, it's like a triangle.
It's a dick over triangle.
It's a dick over triangle where they're all just like dicking each other
They're all
over.
trying to fuck each other, and we get to watch. It's an orgy of beauty, music beauty.
Yeah, and the whole thing's also like a musical. So there's
Right, but it's a diegetic musical, which is fucking weird. It's a musical that...
hot take.
That's like a whole thing. Yeah.
It's the best kind of musical.
Right, it's a musical where the movie has music in it.
Hugh Jackman isn't a massive, pretentious cock to me the entire time.
That's true. That's very true. That doesn't happen in the movie. But so important things to mention right off the bat. I think he did a fantastic job describing the movie. I think everybody should know at this point what it's about. But the important thing to note is where this came from. So this is directed by Brian De Palma. And if you know anything about Brian De Palma, you know that he's a classic director. He's one of the like film brats. Like he made all the shit in the fucking 70s that everyone loves. Like Sisters. That's one of my personal favorites. He made The Untouchables, Dressed to Kill. Oh my God, Brian De Palma. He's made so many things.
All movies.
Scarface.
All movies.
Is him.
I have never seen.
You haven't seen Scarface?
No.
Well, wow. It's almost like we made a fucking podcast about this problem.
I've seen the one good part of Scarface where he's like, "You want a piece of me? Come get a piece of me!" And gets gunned down like an animal.
Yes.
Is that not a
you're
good description
correct.
of Scarface?
Correct. So Brian De Palma is a man that he also directed Carrie. Okay, this is the important part. So here's some weird connections, Neo.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't this fun? So Brian De Palma made a movie with, oh my God, what's her name from Carrie? What is her name? Oh no, Sissy Spacek is her name.
Mm-hmm.
So Sissy Spacek knew David Lynch, and they worked on Eraserhead together.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole thing was kind of going on in tandem with each other in a weird way around the same time. So Eraserhead was debuting kind of as a midnight movie, which is a new movement around the time that this sort of was coming out. And the first midnight movie was El Topo. They played it in American theaters. It didn't do very well, but at midnight, people would drop acid and go see El Topo at midnight, and they would have a rip-roaring, fantastic fucking time. So because of this, they were like, shit, we should start showing all kinds of stuff at midnight. So they started showing Eraserhead. They started showing Pink Flamingos, which is a John Waters movie we'll watch later for the podcast. You'll love it. There's all kinds of shit like that. So in the midst of that, there kind of is this lightning striking with the cult and indie side of filmmaking, because it isn't really horror. Eraserhead is the same way. El Topo is the same way. They aren't really horror, but they are like art movies that are psychologically intense. And so Brian De Palma accidentally ends up involved in this, but not enough. It's weird. So Phantom of the Paradise is his attempt at doing something about that. A description that he once put into it is like he was in an elevator and he heard the Beatles, but it was a Muzak version of the Beatles. So he was just like, wow, the world has died. And it was just like removed from its artistic intent. So he was like, Phantom of the Paradise just like popped in his head. So he made this movie primarily in Dallas, which is fun. At the Majestic Theater, which is a place that I've been many times, and it's a lovely theater. And oh boy, does it bring back all the Phantom memories. If you see it, you'll be like, holy shit, no fucking way, we literally are at the place. So Phantom of the Paradise is coming out around the same time as another prominent midnight movie musical that completely outshines it and destroys its reputation.
I'm gonna guess this.
Oh, okay.
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yes, correct. Rocky Horror Picture Show came out nearly the same year. I think it was pretty close to each other, and one drastically outperformed the other. However, these did double bill together on midnight screenings for a little while, which is probably why we still have such a memory of this movie today, because it kind of, even though it was, in my opinion, the better of the two movies, and I think it's the movie that probably has more to say of the two movies, Rocky just spoke to people in that stupid way that they loved, in the way that like Phantom didn't. But the funny thing is, Rocky has a scene in Denton, which is where we are.
Yeah.
And Phantom of the Paradise has a scene in Dallas, which is not far from here. That's fucking weird, right?
Yeah. Well, just quick take from Neo. I kind of like Phantom of the Paradise more than Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Okay, so welcome to the take world, because this is, your takes are excrement. I agree with you. Not because it's a more hetero movie, even I mean,
Listen,
there's no way around it. It's a little more hetero.
We're all gay here.
Sure, it's a gay podcast for gays, and I think that like these two movies kind of coming out at the same time spoke to a dichotomy almost. They almost are movies that are weirdly married, in my mind at least, and in a lot of people's mind. And the funny thing is, Rocky Horror Picture Show is still shown in midnight screenings today, which makes it the longest running feature film in history, and Phantom of the Paradise is not.
Unless you're in Winnipeg, presumably.
Unless you're in Winnipeg. And so that's the fucking weird thing about it, is there were some cities where they did midnight showings of Rocky, and they showed Phantom of the Paradise, and that picked up attention there. So this movie that was like a bomb, not even really a cult hit, ended up catching like attention later on when it hit home video and then like Blu-ray, and now it's been restored in this beautiful Blu-ray and this beautiful digital copy, and there's like so many amazing versions of it now. And now on Twitter people draw the characters from it all the time and meme the shit out of it, and Paul Williams follows me on Twitter, and I've talked to him, and that's really cool. And Edgar Wright is like a huge fan of the movie, and he like gets the people from the movie together. And oh my god, Jessica Harper's in it, she's from Suspiria. That's really fucking cool. So like all of these cultural lines are kind of getting drawn, and this movie happens to be dead ass right center of all of these cultural things that are exploding around it, and it didn't really see its like value until much later, which is ironic because it's directed by Brian De Palma, who everybody fucking loves. I mean, other than Dress to Kill, and also don't worry about it. I mean, he's kind of a cunt, but don't worry about it. But
he's a white man in Hollywood.
Yeah, you get the point. But my point is, like, everybody went and saw his movies. Like, he's a popular filmmaker. So, popular filmmaker, pretty good cast. Like, Paul Williams was, like, known for music stuff. I mean, like, who doesn't want to see this movie? And then you see the iconography of it. And that's kind of where we can get into it. But like, the Phantom costume here is iconic. But iconic in a weird way, because it never actually touched culture. It only touched a few weirdos.
And those few weirdos just like dove into culture.
So there's like a couple of ties. There's like Daft Punk, clearly. There's
literally a scene that you can just watch it and be like, wow, this is the birth of Daft Punk.
Like, this is literally Daft Punk right here. Yeah. And like Brian De Palma inadvertently invented Daft Punk without inventing it, and just kind of like it just launched that shit.
There's also a lot of like Darth Vader vibes.
There is, you're right. And there's also Guillermo del Toro is notoriously a big fan of this movie, and you can kind of see that if you think about like you haven't seen The Shape of Water, but The Shape of Water is very heavily influenced by Phantom of the Paradise. It's like one of the things that ties them together, and it's like a beautiful thing.
I mean, Griffin from Berserk.
That's the big one.
Is just the main character of the movie.
Griffith from Berserk, and also his character in Berserk. So, what is Berserk, Neo? Explain Berserk.
Berserk is a manga made by, I can't remember the dude's name.
I think it's Kentaro Miura.
That sounds
don't
right.
Quote me.
That is about someone making a Faustian bargain and dicking over their friends.
Oh shit!
Nutshell.
Isn't that weird? How that's
shit.
connected to a weird fucking movie from the 70s that's oddly similarly about Faustian bargains.
Right.
Yeah. So like the iconography has clearly influenced everything, even though nobody saw this. So this like launched 1,000 cultural ships completely unseen, where Rocky Horror gets so much attention, but this like didn't see much attention whatsoever until recently. You didn't fucking know about it until I showed it to you. You had never seen a goddamn thing about it until I showed it to you, and then now we're here.
To be fair, the same goes with Rocky Horror Picture Show, though.
Well, that's fair, but that's because you're a sweet little Christian boy, and so Rocky Horror Picture Show just never made it over there for some odd reason. I don't know why that wouldn't have been shown to you at a young age.
Who's the I'm kicking myself for
Tim Curry?
Yeah. Everyone, like I've seen a million Tim Curry movies.
Oh
just
yeah,
not the
of
OG
course.
one.
Yeah, not the OG classic. So
I'm kind of surprised he had a career after that. Like to be entirely honest with you.
really, like Rocky?
Yeah.
Oh, he's fucking amazing in the movie.
But he's
though.
amazing. But I can just see Hollywood in the '70s being like,
damn this, fuck
damn
this,
I don't
no.
want to touch this fag.
But I mean, the movie was enormously successful. He was amazing in it. Like, there's a million reasons why that was really successful and why he ended up like really successful from it. But on the adverse in the Phantom of the Paradise world, Jessica Harper never really exploded. Like she's a scream queen in my heart, but she really wasn't in an awful lot of things.
But she killed in Suspiria. She was really good.
She kills in Suspiria. We're gonna do an episode on Suspiria later on. We'll get there, but today, no. The other thing is William Finley, the lead Winslow Leach. What the where he's great in this, and he just like disappears from culture, and it's weird how the movie even kind of objectifies him and just like turns him into just like a mechanical thing. So he's barely even in acting in certain aspects of it, but yet he performs the character in such a way that it's like, if you've seen Doug Jones perform, like he does a lot of monster movies, and it's very similar to that.
Who's that guy who plays Gollum? It's Anthony.
Oh,
Secure
Circus.
Yeah, it's kind of like him, where he's like, I feel like he's in everything that where they need an actor to not
who
be
can
a person.
embody something inhuman, right? And so, like, this is kind of one of the OG. He's embodying something inhuman, which is very traditional to the influences, which the movie is oddly simultaneously influenced by a lot of culture and also influencing a lot of culture, because it's a musical about music and about different genres of music,
and about how certain music kills other music, and and how music evolves, and how it's all like orchestrated by shitty pedophiles at the top,
right, who are all like not actually at the top. Like, there is always somebody higher than them.
There's always bigger fish, but they're all complete rat bastards who have equal evils to Satan.
Right, and the whole bit is always like maintaining youth, like maintaining some kind of like ever-present existence, and like trying to defeat their futility. So like everyone's kind of trying to defeat their futility. It's a very complicated thing. But so I guess let's talk about like the themes of the movie, sort of things that you observed, because as a first time viewer, I'm curious like what you picked up on thematically.
Well, so thematically, the part I really really like about the movie is the Faustian bargain, and I think that like just the trope of Faustian bargains are incredibly interesting, and so the whole like vibe of in the movie the main character makes a Faustian bargain with Swan, and there's a scene in the movie where the main character decides to kill himself, so he takes a knife and he stabs himself, and then Swan walks over, pulls the knife out, and says, "You made a contract, and you can't get out of it, you son of a bitch." And so the main character takes the knife and then tries to stab Swan, to no effect. And Swan says, "What, you idiot? You don't think I'm not under contract? Like
I'm under contract
yeah.
too."
So the whole vibe of it's like contracts all the way down.
Exactly.
It's just a great bit.
Right. And so it's funny because like some of the ideas that we experience here are ideas that are sort of vague and maybe even dated. Like the idea of a contract being like such an essential thing in like a music lens is not so much of a problem anymore, because like musicians, we view them mostly as independent like bedroom creators. Like we don't really see musicians like as these huge celebrities quite as much as we used to, but we do still see like this kind of thing in our everyday life where we are making shitty Faustian bargains with businesses all the time. So
yeah, it's called a job.
right, and it ends up being like all about not necessarily music but labor, and also like the Faustian bargains that we make in our day-to-day life with like how we secure living and just shit like that, and how it's not necessarily one little slip, but you piss off one wrong person and you end up in a prison. They remove your teeth. Your fucking life is over.
Right.
And if you try to break away, they'll be like, "Oh no, a criminal who's escaping," and then they'll fucking chase you down and ruin your life. Like, so it's very funny, I think, also that Swan defeats Winslow early on in the movie with fucking drugs and cops. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like the perfect thing that culturally we view as like how to get rid of somebody. And so like it plays very strongly with like the way that almost capitalism puppeteers us more so than any individual. So even when you get to like the deepest level of bastard, even that person is just puppeteered by capitalism invented by somebody else. So at this point, we're all under contract against something, and you know, even if we want to die, we really can't.
Right.
We fucking can't. Like, that's the fucked up thing about it. Is
It's like that old labor song where, you know, he's like, you know, another day, another dollar in debt.
right.
Say, Peter, don't call me because I can't go. I owe my soul at the company store.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's very much about literally owing one's soul, and so it goes beyond the physical. It's like how we all kind of feel these days. And I think the reason that the movie continues to have impact, or at least have more impact now than it had back then, is not that it was before its time, or that it was like seeing things clearly through a lens that like we couldn't see now, but I think that it grows in truth as things go on, because like the movie was very much commenting on the late capitalism of the music industry, because the music industry was very much, when this was made, on its very last legs, like right before it was about to just burst into complete nonsense. And so like it ends up being a story about late capitalism in a way that we can all kind of unify around and understand. And nowadays, I think it speaks more to the millennial and Gen Z crowd than it ever did to prior crowds.
Well, because a huge part of this movie is beyond just the one person of Swan. It is a lot about somebody who is young, idealistic. They have this creative thing that they've made and are proud of, and they go out into the world to display who they are and what they've done with their lives, and they immediately just get absolutely fucking bodied by the weight of the establishment.
Right.
And it's just
which is where we're all at now,
millennials
right?
and Gen Zs. It's you go out into the job force or whatever you're trying to do, and there's just this big grinding machine bearing you down.
Right. Well, and if you're a woman, then it's almost always sexual in nature. It's like the exploitation almost comes sexually, and then if you're a man, it's like you're shoved aside and ignored, and they just take your shit. So it's like I don't know, everybody gets it really, really bad in this system, and women can never get ahead. And I think the movie is weirdly feminist in that it describes exactly how women fail to achieve equality in any industry, like how the industry itself will prevent women's equality, like never give them an actual chance.
Well, and so there's a part of this movie that we haven't touched on, and that's what Swan does is he'll have auditions at his mansion, and then the auditions he has are just they put all the pretty women in his bed and he sleeps with them, and then that's the audition.
Right. Well, and Winslow sneaks into this, and then when Paul Williams' character Swan comes out of the wall of the mirror wall and sees all of the women he's about to fuck, and Winslow Leach, he points at him and goes, "Get this fag out of here." In the most perfect introduction to a character ever. Right.
Yeah, and so then in the entire movie then is like Winslow wanting specifically Phoenix to play his music, and Swan only seeing her as something to fuck.
Right. You know, he ultimately just wants her voice. It's objectifying her. He doesn't want her for her being. He wants her for her.
Well, but he doesn't even want her for her voice because he refuses to have her be the main performer.
Right.
He only has her as the backup because that's the deal he made with Winslow.
Right. Exactly. And then there's this ironic element of the people really, really love Phoenix after she performs. And she performs one of his songs, and it goes really well. So it's a moment where all of these things kind of congeal, sort of in the creative process. If you've ever made a movie, for instance, you write a script, right? And then 5 people get their brains in there and they fuck your script. And then you have a different script. And then you're like, well, fuck, okay. I mean, but you tolerate it. You move on to the next stage, you cast it. And then you go, oh no, I want this person. This person is exactly what I envisioned. But then you're pressured into picking somebody else, and that person gets shoved aside. But then through a bunch of weird, fucked up elements, you get what you want. This person is in the lead role, and they are saying your dialogue, and it's perfect. And you're like, holy shit. I got exactly what I wanted, and it actually hit with people in the exact way that I imagined it, and that's a very validating but rare experience in the industry, because the industry is preventing you from ever experiencing that.
Well, so there's also an element in it where the moment Phoenix sings and is successful, Swan immediately 180s on his opinion of her and is immediately supportive of her and her career.
Insofar as he can make a show out of her death later on. And he can make a little bit of money off of it.
Right, but it goes from he's discarding her as merely only an object of sexual desire, to then him seeing her as important as he sees everybody else who works for him, and that is ultimately just someone to use, abuse, and then discard.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's also an element of that where um everything Swan's opinion of everybody is mirrored by everyone else's opinion of that person in the movie.
Yeah,
So Swan is ultimately a representation of just the general culture and the general populace in the movie.
right. The way the general populace is looking at things.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's that scene where he's picking which performer he wants to sing Winslow's music as it's kind of going along, and he's like, "Damn, like I don't want any of these." And then it takes only like a second and a look and kind of like just kind of a vibe, and he's like, "Oh, wait a minute. Okay, even if this guy isn't talented, I want it to be like metal. Like I
Right.
want it to be like punk rock.
Punk glam metal.
Like clearly this needs to be glam metal."
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like that's the way that we see it in the audience, like as we're watching it, because like every time we're introduced to a style of music, we're like, okay, I can buy that this style of music would exist, but I don't want it. And so it's like weird how Swan is plugged directly into what we want
Mm-hmm.
ultimately. Weird.
Weird.
Well, and so let's talk about the music in the movie just in general. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
besides the fact that like we all like the music, the music's very cool. Music done by Paul Williams, we love him, and a bunch of other people that I can never remember their names, but they are also very talented and they were also involved. But primarily, Paul Williams gets the credit for this because he just wrote a lot of it and was very, very talented, and it's really, really good. So
Mm-hmm.
we sure like Paul Williams and everything he did for it. Um, the music plays such a key instrumental role in it
Right.
while also not ever being what the story's actually about.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm kind of curious what you like, where you kind of take the interaction between the music and the screen.
Well, so the first of all, I just we briefly talked about this, but I think that diegetic musicals are the best kind of musical.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
So it immediately I liked it, the music and how it correlated to the screen much more than most musicals,
Right.
because I really hate having my immersion broken, because like the way I watch movies is I'm pretty willing to immediately shill out my my belief to anything, like if
Right.
and that's just kind of like one of my weaknesses with movies is that pretty much any movie they are like, here's what
You'll
you need.
buy in pretty
Here's-
easily.
Yeah, here's what you need for suspension of disbelief. And for most about everything, I will just immediately offer it up because I like sci-fi and fantasy because I'm weird and weird. But so I really hate when movies like make that deal with me where they say here's the here's what you need to suspend in order to like buy into the movie, and then they immediately just change the dynamics of that.
Right.
So like with like Les Mis or any other movie musical, the moment they break
They
out
actually
of this,
start singing.
they look at me on the camera and they start singing to me about what's happening. I'm
You're
out.
immediately like,
Like fuck you,
fucking
Hugh Jackman.
what? Yeah, no, I get that like completely. I feel very similarly. I've always felt weird about musicals. I don't know why. I felt the same way in theater. It's like, well, but like musicals in theater just always made so much more sense to me.
It works a lot better.
But speaking of diegetic musicals, like we were recently watching Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Like I made Neo watch that one day, and so that's another diegetic musical.
I wish I remembered more of that movie. I think I slept.
You were on a lot of D8 marijuana.
I was on a lot of D8 marijuana, and I slept. And I remember liking what I remember of it, but I feel like I missed most of the
something
movie.
significant.
Yeah.
Right. But still, the same vibe applies where it's just like you can buy into the music so easily because it's diegetic. You're just like, oh, okay, people performing music and we're watching them perform music. And that appeals to us. But so something I noticed about the music this time around, because I've seen the movie like a billion times, but something I noticed this time is like there's this weird element of the first time that Winslow performs. He's at his piano and he's playing the song Faust, which is the song that goes through the entire movie in a billion different genres.
Really the only song in the movie. It's the entire soundtrack of the movie is the same exact song.
I was not myself last night. I was something sad. Apologies and flowers. Yeah, it's that thing. And so like he plays that and then that gets stolen from him.
Mm-hmm.
Then they go into a mansion and he hears a million annoying women singing badly his song.
Mm-hmm.
The same song. Because it's removed from its context. And then it's further removed from its context when the Juicy Fruits perform it, which is in the middle of the movie where there's the bombing scene.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a scene where Winslow literally bombs a band, which is great.
Well, the Juicy Fruits are totally not the Beach Boys.
Yeah, they're totally not meant to be the Beach Boys. And so like the totally not Beach Boys perform Faust, the same song, and the vibe is completely different. And the whole thing is like carburetors, man. And that's what life is all about. It's like just got this like totally like completely different vibe. And but the way that they change the song to try to make the song fit, it's the same kind of song. It's the same general vibe. And the weird thing is it's still about the same core themes. So like deep down, that song ends up continuing to be about like being a failure and like suddenly fucking up and feeling like a fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
So like that performance of it in the movie is a version of that where they're trying to perform it like where they feel like fuck ups. So the song continues throughout the entire thing, but the weird bit about the song Faust being like the key here is that for the most part, it's about feeling like a fuck up and needing to like do something to validate yourself. Right. So the bargain itself is more like this youthful validation thing. So it's funny how the music ends up adaptable. And while Winslow fucking hates it when the Juicy Fruits perform his song, it still ultimately gets the point. And that's kind of fucked up about music, right? Is because you can show music to somebody in a billion different ways, but ultimately they're going to see it in the way and feel the feelings in their own sort of way. It's the ultimate point is going to be the same, even if the music doesn't reflect that. It's kind of strange. Music is fucking weird, and especially in this context, because it's like, first off, Brian De Palma is not a music boy. Like, I don't think he's all that musically savvy, but he has some takes about music.
Right.
And like, I feel like Phantom of the Paradise is hello everyone, I have takes about music.
Right.
And oh boy are they takes. And so this like reflective nature of music, or how it's like adaptable. What's that Zizek thing about Ode to Joy?
Oh, like every song is Ode to Joy.
Well, like Ode to Joy is ultimately like trying to capture this feeling of some sort of nationalist euphoria, and it's applied to a million different things, and it works every time. And from democracy to fascism to communism, like everybody can play Ode to Joy, and they'll all be like, "Yeah, we are all happy."
Well,
And
it's such a like a brainworm into making you feel good about whatever authority is over you.
right, and
For whatever reason, like just that bum 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 is just like
it just immediately makes
sends
you
you
accept
there.
authority.
it's fluoride. It's musical
Right.
fluoride.
It's the Manchurian Candidate. We hear Ode to Joy and we just are subservient.
Salute the flag, cocksucker.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, yeah, Phantom of the Paradise has this weird, like, influence in that it continues to be about this, like, regurgitated, like, dead shell of music that continues to be, like, carried around. So, like, ultimately, the Phantom of the Paradise Is it Winslow? Is it Swan? Is it Phoenix? I'm kind of the opinion that it's the music, right?
Mm-hmm.
The music is the phantom. It continues to haunt everything forever. It can be a million different genres. It can embody a billion different people, but ultimately they look at the page and there it is. And while it sucks that the guy that made it was forced to be like living a drugged out nightmare life in a weird cage as a robot man, who looks like a bird. He did make a masterpiece that haunts the world forever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, John Lennon is dead, right? But we still hear Muzak versions of the Beatles
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. And if you really want to, you can kind of like trace your imagination to the meaning of that song in any situation, and it's just like it will always live with us no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Even though like the people that made it are long dead and the ideas are, either no longer apply or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's weird that a movie about how art has a tendency to haunt culture
Mm-hmm.
this movie has a tendency to haunt Twitter, and everybody really likes it and draws pictures of it. And nowadays they're like, dang, this is ever present now than it's ever been before.
Right. Well, and I think there's also a bit in that movie where it's it's talking a lot about how art is escapes the artist
Yeah.
very quickly.
Right.
Where as much as the robot Birdman wants to control his art, it's he's given it, he's put it out in the world, and there's
Right.
nothing he can do to wrestle control from the
He can't
world.
have it back.
He can't have it back. And it's like that with just all music, is once you give it to the world, anyone can take it and do anything with it, and there's really
Right.
nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because this is kind of predictive of some of the things that would end up happening in Hollywood in like the 90s. Like, Brian De Palma was ultimately kind of a friend of George Lucas. And so he watched George Lucas make alterations to his old art and be like, damn, dude. Like, because culture takes things. It's theirs now. And we hate it. We think it's like fucked up or bad or something, but it is also just the way that things manifest.
Right.
So like at the end of the movie, the last like shots of it are all of these people dead, and then somebody grabs Winslow's mask off the ground and puts it on their own head and just kind of stands there and is like vibing in a cool mask.
Right.
And then like, everybody's just like filming the dead people, and it's just a giant party, and the music's still going on, and everybody's like, hell yeah, that was fucking wild and awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like
It's all a show, man.
Right, exactly. Their culture is just accepting it as a show and just accepting it in the same way that we, unfortunately accept like politics as a show or anything else that's going on TV. It's like we accept things as a performance. Even when it's like
Right.
dire and serious.
Well, and even like even as far back as ancient Rome, they understood as long as you entertain people and feed them, they don't give a shit about politics. Like they don't give a shit about what's going on around them.
Right.
As long as you give them a circus and you give them bread.
Yeah, pretty much. And so I think the point of the movie is ultimately cynical, that people are just in a giant mass, are they just want a show
Right.
and bread. and so like if you want to feed them, that's the contract, right? It's like that contract you make with the audience almost. And so a lot of the contracts in the movie are kind of that. It's contracts with the audience that are signed in blood, because if you fuck up, it's your life. It's the
Right.
only thing you ever did, So like I feel like a lot of artists understand this deeper than a lot of non-artists or people that have experienced like the shitty elements of capitalism. So it just kind of applies to a lot of people, and I think a lot of people are connecting to it in a way that they maybe didn't a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny, like I feel like if Rocky Horror and this came out today, this would be much more popular. I think, based on the people I've experienced in my life. Whereas Rocky Horror, I think most people would consider it to be kind of weird and problematic
Well, yeah, well,
and trashy.
And I think mostly because the ultimate meaning of Rocky Horror Picture Show is, wow, Reagan sucks.
Right. Well, and I love Rocky Horror Picture Show. Like, I'm never gonna not love it. I've seen it a million times, but I think when it comes to like staying power, things that are important to me, things that have ultimately ended up meaning a lot to me in my life, Phantom of the Paradise is way more important. And I think culturally, while Rocky Horror Picture Show does have like a whole lot of cultural significance, and it did launch a whole lot of careers and shit, so did this. And honestly, the stuff that is launched by Phantom of the Paradise, like Guillermo del Toro stuff and like Daft Punk and Berserk and shit like that,
to some degree, Darth Vader.
Right, and a lot of these ideas and the things that are on display, it's like, I love these things, and I think that these things have become more and more important to me as time has gone on. So I really feel like this is the one. So we are kind of getting near the end here, so we do have to ask the ultimate question, which I guess I didn't mention this at the top of the podcast, but maybe I should do it next time. So the whole bit here is that we're going to decide if this gets to be added to the excrement pile or if it doesn't even get to be that, because like ultimately we are just a big pile of trash around here. And last time we decided, controversial, and listen, we got in trouble for it. A lot of people came at me. They were like, May, what the fuck are you doing? And I was like, listen,
it's Neo's takes. Come after me.
It's Neo's takes.
Why are you yelling at me?
Go at Neo. Yeah. Get at Neo about his takes.
Go after someone who genuinely and passionately doesn't care what the internet has to say about me.
There you go. So yeah, but we decided to put Cannibal Holocaust in the excrement pile.
With a big old fiat, but
which I know sounds really, really bad, but it's actually a good thing.
Just go watch the podcast.
Yeah, just go listen.
We explain it.
Take a listen to it. Listen to it while you're shitting.
Yeah,
it's good for that.
As we intended.
Yeah, we made it specifically for truck drivers. It's a podcast for truck drivers. So today, I have a feeling I already know where we're gonna go with this, but I guess we have to do it anyway. And this is the part where everybody gets to play along at home. But is this going to be added to the excrement pile?
It's great. It's excellent. It's a fun movie.
Great fucking movie.
You see someone's face get melted in a vinyl press,
which is pretty fucking sick. I will say this: the movie has the worst digital matting that I've ever seen in any motion picture. It's like you silly bitch.
Here, let's just start that from the top again.
No, it's all going in.
Oh, it is?
This is great shit.
For the audience, I dropped a battery.
Yeah.
Here, listen.
Wow, fucking amazing. Wow, listen to that. I love it.
Anyway, I'm out of batteries.
So, but I think the bit with the digital matting here is that, like, there was some like contract dispute or some lawsuit or some silly shit, and they had to very, very quickly for the Blu-ray, like very, very quickly and shoddily put a digital mat over a couple of logos, and they did a fuck terrible job at it. Like a fuck terrible job. All appreciation for them getting that movie to me. Like, thank God there's a Blu-ray of Phantom of the Paradise, like, these days. Like, that's a wonderful thing, and I'm not complaining about it, but god damn it. Like, can we maybe improve that for the 4K?
That is something funny when you're like remaking these old movies, where when you deal with a lower resolution, some things you can kind of like get by with not doing well, but the moment you put it in 4K and you can see every
little
detail,
microscopic thing,
and it's like oh wow, Randy really didn't want to do a good job with the matting because he was busy, and he just said fuck it, it'll be in 480 or whatever resolution.
Yeah, who gives a fuck? Very, very different experience. So but anyway, back to the question at hand. I also would put it in the excrement pile. I love this movie. This is in my top 5 probably. Like, I've watched this a million billion times. Notably, the first time I watched this, like, I watched the movie, and then before taking the Blu-ray out, I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna just watch this son of a bitch again. and just started right at the top.
Why didn't we do that?
I don't know. We didn't watch this one on acid, by the way. Cindy, can you give it a fucking rest? We're in the middle of a podcast. So, no, I didn't.
Love you, Cindy.
So we didn't watch this one on acid. We watched this one like normal humans.
No, we watched this one drunk because we just gotten home from a bar crawl the night before Halloween.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's a much better situation. But still, regardless, I think with substances, movies just are always better.
Mm-hmm.
So we got all the substances. It all lined up perfectly. And I think I think it was pretty good. But anyway, so you get the conclusions here. We both really, really like Phantom of the Paradise. I think everybody online really, really likes it these days. I don't know anybody who's like, fuck Phantom of the Paradise.
When the movie ended, the words that came out of my mouth was, "That's really fucking good."
Yeah,
really
damn,
liked it.
I love that. Fuck.
Damn, that's great.
Yeah, I mean that's like exactly the reaction one can have because it's like a very good, astute, like the spicy little movie. It's short, sweet, to the point, good shit, and a musical.
Yeah.
It's for gays and for straights sometimes, occasionally,
And for people who like Berserk
and for people
and Daft Punk.
and Daft Punk. Yep. I mean, pretty much apply. That's
everyone on the planet.
That's everyone. That's everybody. So, before we sign off here, this is our second episode. We're going to be doing more of these because these have been going very, very well. I think we've both been very happy, and the audience reaction has been amazing. Like everybody's been reaching out and saying, "Oh my God, it's so good." We can't wait to hear more.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's going to be really. It's gonna be really great to keep doing this. Like we're aiming to do weekly. Hope that's cool. I mean,
Bi-weekly at most.
Bi-weekly, yeah.
At worst, I guess.
It's hard to get editing done and everything published all the time. But I'm glad that people are listening to it. We're also gonna set up an RSS feed and get it all up on iTunes and get it up everywhere that podcasts are sold for free. Are located. And also, I guess we're considering like a Patreon or something if people continue listening, if we continue to have a really good response. But just let us know. I suppose like you can tweet at us. I'm at Nick Spheres and
I'm at Engstrom.
Yeah, and so you can hit us up and tell us shit. Send us pictures of your dick. Great shit like that. Yeah, please don't send a picture of your dick to Neo. He's sensitive.
I'm a sweet little boy.
He's a sweet sensitive little cat boy. He can't see that. He can't be looking at that right now.
I think just as a general rule of thumb, the PSA for the episode is unsolicited dick pics are not appropriate in any context.
No, never.
Make sure they're solicited.
That's the main point of the podcast today, and we want you to take that home with you.
Yeah.
No unsolicited dick pics.
Please no.
Yeah, get off Grindr, kids. Stop being like that. Your parents are very disappointed. I'm disappointed. My parents are disappointed.
Are we their parents?
We are their parents. Hi.
The parents of the internet.
We're the internet parents now.
Yeah.
Hello, gays. We're your parents. I'm mom.
I'm dad. I'm daddy.
Fuck. All right. Well, so we're gonna do another episode soon where we're looking into doing The Thing or Suspiria. We've got a couple of titles that we're looking at.
So Suspiria's great.
Yes.
But fuck is what's his face hot?
John Carpenter?
No. He's a wrinkly old man.
Kurt Russell?
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell is very hot.
He's the sexiest man alive, and he has been since he was 18.
We can all so we can also do we could do Escape from New York, which we've seen recently. I mean, there's so many things because we love Kurt Russell in this house. I also am a Kurt Russell stan. I would let that man top me and throw me over his shoulder and carry me into the sea. I'm all about
Kurt
it.
Russell appreciation household.
Absolutely, 100%. So there's definitely going to be like a Kurt Russell appreciation hour coming your way any minute now. Whenever we figure out which Kurt Russell movie
we can guarantee the next movie will have Kurt
Russell in it. who's that Pokemon? And it's like a movie poster, but it's like the only hint they get is Kurt Russell, and we haven't even decided which one we want to do yet. Anyway, the point is the podcast is over. Go home, kids. It's time to stop hanging out with us. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you, and get the fuck out of here. I need you to get the fuck out of here. So get on with your life and have a great one. My name has been May, and this has been Your Takes Are Excrement.
And have a good life.
Who are you?
I'm Neo, and I'm demanding that whoever's listening has a good old time after this.
You'll probably have a great one, and if you don't, then I'll kill you. Goodbye.